Hello everyone, my name is El Parnaso and today I'm going to show you one card combo of Yummy and how to respect hand traps through it. So, for the purpose of this example, you can use any of these two, which are the worst ones. So let's say that we are using Lollipop. We normal summon Lollipop, we make the Snatchy, we use the Snatchy effect, we put minion, we revive. And here we are going to play with this one. Now let's imagine that here we are getting, obviously we're not going to get Imper or anything like that. They were used here or anything alike. Imagine here that you're getting Ash or Purge or maybe even Gamma. If, like, again, you are in a scenario where you draw 5, you have these 4, and you only have as a play, like in any of, like between any of these ones, the Lollipop or the Cookie. In just those cases, you are going to chain this one. Because if you have any of other name Yummy, for example, let's imagine that you have Cookie, you would like to have this one in the graveyard instead. I'm going to show that tomorrow in a 2-card combos Yummy, but right now we are discussing drawing the worst Yummy and anything else. Now we keep playing in this case, like let's just get into fantasy land for a moment. We are going to add these two, regardless of which one we draw. Remember, we are in these two, and we discard the marshmallow. Remember, we are here in a scenario when we want to make a 1-card combo because our other 4 cards are not part of the combo circulation, but are too valuable to discard them. So it's always good in any deck that you play to have an idea of what I like to call an axiom, which in this case will be a 1-card combo that gets through a minimal of your wishful thinking of an end board. It's not going to be like all the pieces, but it's going to be enough pieces to be consistent enough to justify make this approach whenever you have just the Lollipop or the Cookie. So you don't have to think always, oh, I have to discard one of these 4. So let's continue. Here you have this one, and before you special summon the Capsy, you are going to make Link and summon the second Snatchy. The reason to do this is because I know that you can special summon the Capsy here, but if you do, you're exposing yourself to a scenario when your opponent can Bailer and Imper the Capsy. And I know that you can think, oh, maybe my opponent is going to do it here, but there's always a scenario when your opponent draw, for example, Bailer and Nib, and in those cases, they're always going to wait for the Bailer and the Imperm, regardless of if they think that you have 1 or 2 Yummies. They're not going to take the risk because technically it's guaranteed that Bailer Nib is going to be the sequence of the Yummy plays. Because it's very common for a lot of players to make Capsy with the Synchro and without the Snatchy, to try to play around Nib, trying to make some plays before Lollipop Wave to force the Nib with the Herald. But just let's continue and give me your thoughts in the comments if you like this idea. So if you do it like this, just sending the Graveyard and summoning the Snatchy, if they try to go to that approach in a scenario where, for example, they have Bailer and Nib, you go with special summon Snatchy here, and they can't do the Bailer and Imperm anymore, because if they try, now you can change the Snatchy and avoid it. Now, that's very important because Capsy is your only way, literally your only way, to get access to the surprise. So I rather protect this as much as I can than protect the Lollipop. Now, talking about Lollipop, we go here with the Lollipop and we revive these two. Well, this is the level 1 with the higher defense, regardless of Lollipop or Cookie. So here we use these two. We go with Metal Marcher, and we use the effect to revive here. And with the surprise, we make the effect of to a special summon. And now we put the marshmallow in circulation. This is the reason why we decide to send this one, because we want to revive to a special summon with the surprise regardless. And because if we try to get a bit greedy and use the effect in hand, we expose ourselves unnecessarily to cards like K9 Izuna, for example. And as you can see, I don't think that you need to expose yourself like that. So you're making this, if they try to make like Impulse or Bell in this card for some reason, you still have access to this Lollipop, which is going to revive these ones, and this is going to be able to recover this regardless. And here you can still make the Herald, or try just to play, or make here the another Snatchy, and try to do something that I want to explain in another video. So let's continue here. You are going to recover this one, and now a lot of people are going to say that this is the worst scenario to get Nib, right? Because I already used the effect to special summon, and I don't even have the Akruki to try to pop the card, and I waste not only the Lollipop Way, but the Metal Marcher. However, I kinda disagree, because first, this is kind of an utility card, so I rather protect my Capsi to guarantee as much as possible the surprise than to protect effects that are kinda wing more at this point. Because here it's very important which synchro are you going to trigger to have access to it, because ideally you just want one synchro of the tree in the graveyard as a circulation, so you can allow yourself to put on a position when the other synchro that you may have on the field is going to make the effect not only to revive the level 2, but to revive also a level 1 or the Snatchy, to have still two ways of Yami interactions. However, in this case, because we are getting Nib, we are going to value this one more than the other two, because we want to get the extra name in the opponent's turn, which I'm going to see back in a moment. Remember that, yes, this is not going to revive two monsters, but it doesn't matter, because the Nib is just going to send all of this to the graveyard. Okay, so we recover this to the extra deck, because it's a cost to go to the extra deck back. Now, we don't waste our Link Kuribo here, so we just leave the token B right here. If they don't get rid of it during their turn, then in our turn we can have the luxury of using it as a Link Kuribo fodder, because it's not going to be that relevant for the purposes of trying to play. It's the Link 1, so if we try to use this Nachi, we already need a level 1 Yami, and if we have a level 1 Yami and the Snatchy, why do we need the Link Spider at that point? Why are we exposing the card to that point? So I don't advise you to use this in these scenarios, the Link Spider here. We are just going to set the surprise, and we are going to pass. Because remember, they only use Nib, which means that they have 4 cards. You still have 4 cards that you didn't use. And all the other cards that you could have drawn to play around Nib, if they are not here, means that they are hand traps. Any of these could have been here, because if you have an extra Yami in your hand, you would have another different thing, which I'm going to show tomorrow, the 2 card combos. If you draw the Prosperity 2, if you drew the Obedience 2, the Engage, the Hornet, even these 2, what I like to call the Joker cards, because these will allow you to draw 2, or to dig in for any of these ones to keep playing. These will allow to live for this or for this to keep playing, etc., etc. So, as you can see, even the worst case scenario with this line that supposedly don't respect Nib, is not that bad. You still have the math in your favor, and remember that there's a lot of decks in the format that that have consecutive effects, and by that I mean that, for example, they have an effect that at resolution allows the player to make a trigger effect. Let's just make an example. Imagine that you get nib, you make the play that I told you because you have 4 hand traps. Because remember, if you don't have any of these of these cards, is when you are exposed to this worst case scenario. You can play through nib easily, protecting the capsi as I show you, drawing any of these. Which means that you only drew hand traps, which means that your opponent first has to play through at 4 or at least 3 hand traps. And also has to play around the surprise. Imagine that they start the play and they activate Hawakiri. You just change the surprise, you revive the synchro that you left, ideally this one because you have the capsi to discard the Yami name that you don't have. They activate the Hawakiri, they special summon the Saji, and at resolution, are they going to use Saji? If they do, you have your circulation already because this is going to get these two, these two. You're going to draw a card, you're going to have access to the other field spell to pop a card, and you're going to have all the synchros available. Let's just put another example. Imagine that your opponent starts its play with normal summon Dormouse effect. Okay, I'll change surprise. I put the synchro. At resolution, are they going to activate the white rabbit that they just vanished? Okay, I'm just going to put all my cards in circulation. I put all those 2 that I just show you. I draw a card, I change the field spell. I make the capsi, I set your Dormouse and your white rabbit, GG. Imagine that you are, there's a lot of examples when you're going to kind of identify when your opponent is going to have a trigger for a resolution. So you can use the surprise in the most efficient way possible in this worst case scenario, which shows you that I think it's worth to try to go through this line, because imagine that you don't get nib in the point that I show. Like imagine that you are here, 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 and here. Like obviously the immediate play here will be to summon the Herald. Then with this you're going to make a Snatchy again, and you're gonna set the surprise, which means that you have the negate, the flute gate, and you're going to have 2 different ways to put your Yami circulation on board. And if they allow the first synchro to resolve, you're gonna have a 3rd one, because you have a synchro in the graveyard. Imagine that they just use an effect. Ideally, you're going to return the synchro and you're going to revive the other synchro and the Yami effect that you want to activate at that point. Because if anything happened to, like, let's say for example that you draw a card here. If anything happened to any of these 2, you're still gonna have access to this one to make the circulation because you have the snatches and the Yami names, the level 1s. Also, you still have the pressure of making the Book of Moon if they try to kill this by battle, for example, to make the cookie, and still have 2 ways to play around, 3 ways to play around the lack of engine. You have 3 ways of follow-up. So I think this line, in the cases where you draw just the lollipop, because you take the card and how you read your cards in the cases that you take the lollipop instead. And it's kind of because as I showed, worst case scenario not doable. This fair can still have Yami solution with issues. You can put it with the cookie or with the cookie, so you're fine. Now tomorrow I'm going to show you 2 card combos so you can see the different interactions that the Yami cards allows you to do through hand traps. If you like it, please share and subscribe. Thank you.